Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we're going to be discussing this absolutely wild case about that cop that slept with her whole police department, and turns out they found that she was the victim somehow. This is absolutely insane. She claimed that she was groomed and that she was actually the victim. Like, she had no say whatsoever in all these gangbangs that she was participating in all these trains she was getting ran on while she was in the police department. Let's take a look.
Thank you, Katie. You may remember the eyebrow-raising sex scandal that rocked the LaVergne Police Department. We first told you about the mess in January of last year. The shocking details sounded like a bad movie script, made national news, as 5 officers and then the police chief all fired. The city then found itself facing a lawsuit filed by a former female officer. Well, tonight word comes the city has settled the case with a hefty payment. Our Nikki Hauser heard directly from city leaders.
After that scandal, former police officer Megan Hall sued the city. Then tonight, over a year later, the city of LaVergne held a special meeting in which they decided they would pay out Megan Hall $500,000, officially ending that lawsuit.
Motion to approve as it is written here.
It took less than 5 minutes.
No.
Alderman Hobbs?
Aye.
Alderman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dunn?
Aye.
Motion passes.
For the LaVergne city leaders to say yes, they'll pay former police officer Megan Hall $500,000.
What message is that send to all the other employees?
Alderman Dennis Waldron was the only
Exactly. That's wild. That is wild. She got $500,000 for engaging in consensual sex with members of the police department. How in the fuck is she getting $500,000 from the city? Unless for some whatever it is, we don't know the details behind the case, right? But it could be that there was some damning evidence that if this went to trial would have been even worse for the city of LaVergne. But I just I don't understand how they find this person to be the victim. I don't get it. I don't get how it is that in America we have told women that they're strong, powerful, they're independent, and they don't need no man. And simultaneously we treat women like kids. We treat them like children. We infantilize women. We act like women can't do anything wrong. It's always the men that get punished, even when the woman is just equally as culpable as the man is. Like, I've seen posters, I don't know if they're memes or if they're real, but I believe these are probably real. I've legitimately seen posters of like drinking and consent, where it'll say like, John and Stacy have been drinking. John and Stacy are both drunk. Stacy can't consent. What do you mean Stacy can't consent? Neither can John. But the way that it's framed as if Stacy has no power in this situation and only John has power in this situation. Only John can consent even though he's drunk. And by law, if he's drunk, he cannot consent either, because only the man has power, while we simultaneously tell women that they're strong and independent and don't need no man. How does that work? Please explain it to me. How is it that for some things we can attribute women to being great and to being great members of society who are just as capable as men, and at the same time treat them like they're kids? Like, every time they commit a crime or they do something stupid, we have to treat them like, oh, they're just women. We're not gonna punish them. They're just women. They're doing nothing wrong. They don't know what they're doing. They're just women. They can't be held accountable for their crimes. They're just women. They didn't know what they were doing. They're just women. They were just being taken advantage of by the men. That's what was going on. The men. It's the men's fault. The men did this to the women. If it wasn't for men, women wouldn't have done this. Mind you, this woman never claimed that she was raped by any of the members of the police department. She was having sex with all of them, and she never claimed she was raped. Yet somehow, she's the victim. How? Please, explain it to me. It doesn't make sense. How do you engage in consensual acts of sex. Then when you get caught and fired, you claim you were groomed by the entire department. Now, I can understand maybe your chief, right? but the entire department was grooming you? Even your coworkers, your equals? Because grooming usually involves people being older than you or higher above you to get you to do things that you may not want to do. So even your coworkers were grooming you? Make that shit make sense. This shit is absolutely insane.
Dissenting vote.
He's sending a message out to everybody in the world, said, come to LaVergne, sue LaVergne because they're going to settle.
We're just going
The
to give
city
you
as a whole
money.
now agreeing to pay Hall, but denying any admission of liability.
It's hard being in the minority.
This after the story of the LaVergne police sex scandal exploded early last year.
So you're not admitting that the department did anything wrong, that nobody did anything wrong, and you're still paying her. Why? Why? It makes no sense whatsoever to pay this person. Or maybe they settled because it would have been cheaper. Even if they were going to win, it would have been cheaper for them to pay her than to spend money on lawyers and on a case that could have lasted possibly years. Maybe that's the reason why they settled, which could be a possibility. I mean, that's fair, but that's wild. That's wild. I think the men should sue the city, or they should sue her for damages and take her $500,000. That shit would be fucking hilarious, actually. If they were to do that, if they were to actually sue her and manage to somehow get that $500 from her, that would be fucking golden.
Revealing a pattern of inappropriate activity inside the department. Reports detail sex between officers on duty and on city property, intimate photos and videos shared among officers, and silence from the police chief, who was clued into what was happening.
Convince her to engage in sexual activity that she didn't want to.
Hall and her lawyer claim it was a hostile work environment that groomed her.
While I was aspiring to protect my community, the LaVergne Police Department was not protecting me.
She, along with 4 other officers and the police chief, were fired. Hall talked to News Channel 5 about the affair early last year.
I know what most people are saying. You know, you could have said no. I get it. But
Yes.
my response to them is that I did say no.
You could have
And-
said no. You could have said no. You could have said no. And guess what? If you said no and then they threatened your job, guess what? You had a fucking lawsuit right there. That would have been the same. It would have been the same thing. And then at least you would have still had your dignity. People would have been on your side, and you wouldn't have been humiliated in fucking public. But you had sex with the whole fucking department when you could have said no, and you're playing like you're the fucking victim, like you didn't say yes eventually. Even if you initially said no and they kept doing it, all you had to do was say no. If you didn't feel like you wanted to do that and they kept pressuring you, you quit and you sued the fucking department, which is what you did anyways, right? After you got fired, you sued the department. You could have quit, sued the department, and you would have gotten your $500. You still would have been with your husband. You wouldn't have been considered a serial cheater by everybody who knows about this case. And people wouldn't look at you like a piece of shit. Because now she's just a piece of shit with money. That's all she is. That's all she is. She could have been a hero. She stood up to the system and said no to people who were trying to have sex with her when she didn't want to. Instead, she chose to do it and then fucking cried. And she became the victim. Again, I don't know why we as a society treat women like they have no agency, like they can't make their own choices. Or when they do make their own choices, it's somehow not their fault. Because women are never at fault for anything that they do in Western society. They're literally not held to any fucking standard that a man is held. Yet these women will claim, these people online will claim that we live in a patriarchal society, that somehow men control everything, when women have everything in this fucking country. And they have it so good, they don't even get treated like adults. They get treated like fucking kids. Slap on the wrist. You're fired, but here's $500,000. Jesus Christ.
He wouldn't take it for an answer. Eventually, I gave in from pressure.
Wednesday's vote ends both Hall's lawsuit against the city and against 3 of her former superiors in the department.
We have improved a lot.
As the city still works to rebuild trust in the public eye. Nikki Hauser, News Channel 5.
Thank you, Nikki. The city says their insurance provider will pay the $500,000 to Hall. They say it's a gross settlement, including court costs, attorney's fees, and expenses. To be clear, they say it's not taxpayer money, and the city adds that they still deny any admission of liability.
I don't even know what to say. I don't know what the fuck to say. I think I've said enough. I think that our society is doomed. Women are not held accountable for any of the choices they make, good or bad. Well, the good ones, yes, because we praise women when they make good choices and they're making all these strides. But when they do bad things, somehow it's not their fault. It's our fault as men because we're bad and evil and okay. And she got groomed and the man never took no for an answer. And instead of reporting him, she eventually gave in. But notice how she only mentioned one man. So she gave in to one man. So where did the other men that were running trains on her, where'd they come from? I'm just trying to figure it out. This is sick shit and she should have gotten a dime. A dime. But that's all I got. I've said enough for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and follow me on social media. Also join the Discord in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.